LifeHakx. Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more.
This is Mary Collins from LifeHakx Media and Radio X, and I have the pleasure of having Dr. Friderike Wiechel from Swiss Mountain Clinic online with me today. How are you, Dr. Wiechel?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. So I'm just going to give our audience a little bit of information about you. Dr. Wiechel had completed her studies in human medicine at the University of Hamburg in 2013, and then went on to do her training as an assistant physician specializing in general internal medicine in Zurich. At the Hearst Landen Clinic in Zurich, she worked in the departments of oncology, internal medicine, and emergency medicine. Subsequently, she was able to combine her knowledge of conventional medicine and complementary medicine at the Center for Integrative Medicine under Dr. Philip Kentuba and worked as a family doctor. And since 2018, Dr. Friderike Wiechel has been a doctor at the Swiss Mountain Clinic. And now I want you to tell our audience a little bit more about what you do there.
Yes, I have. It's my pleasure, Mary. Thank you. I work here with my mother. That's the first thing, and that's the greatest gift because she has always been my teacher, and she's the best teacher at the beginning of my medical experience now. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful because we both do a bit the same. Especially, we look for the root causes of any kind of disease. And my big part since last year, I would say, is the parasite diagnostics, because we found out that no matter what kind of illness somebody has, parasites play always an important role.
Right. And I think this is something that people don't realize. I myself suffer from thyroid conditions and all sorts, but I've also lived internationally my entire life, from childhood onwards. And I do know that in actual fact, I think I was diagnosed with H. pylori or something like this, which is bacterial. And it turns out that in my family, actually, a lot of the cancers that we have are due to having intestinal problems. So it's very interesting because so many people out there, they have depression or they're tired all the time and they think it's their workload or they think it's their stress from family situations or the environmental situations, which of course it can be. But a lot of the times what you're saying is that there's a possibility that it could be from parasites. Exactly.
And parasites have always been in us. They live with us since humans are alive, let's say like this. But the problem of our days is that with the global world, for sure, we can get the parasites from everywhere.
Right.
And on the other hand, parasites get very aggressive with all of the toxins in our body. They don't know that. That make them hungry, even more hungry, let's say, and also with the EMF everywhere. So that's a problem, the combination of a high toxic load, a reduced detoxification function, many parasites in our body, and that's why it's so important to know who lives inside of me, and then I need to treat it. And how we do parasite testing is we use a form of bioresonancy, energetic testing with a Salvia machine. It's from a machine from Czech Republic. And because we have seen if we send blood samples, if we send stool samples to the laboratory, often it comes back negative. Or you can send it to the laboratory and you have 2 or 3 parameters, then you can see indirectly that somebody might have a parasite infection. But the laboratories, it's much too expensive for them to really do the parasite test. It's not, they don't earn money with that, let's say. Like so we do, or the standard is like energetic testing. And then we see the results. When I just found a tapeworm and then a couple of days later, the tapeworm comes out, it's like, ooh, for a patient.
Wow.
So, and sometimes people can't imagine when they see the results afterwards in the toilet. Or we had patients, they come out vomiting. Now we have a patient, the parasites come out of the nose.
Oh my.
That is really, really, really interesting. And when I talk about parasites, I do not only talk about worms, we also have bacteria, and everybody knows there are bacteria on our skin, there are bacteria in our gut, so everywhere. Parasites are viruses, no? Corona, whatever.
Right. So, and speaking of which, how does one, like I was mentioning tiredness and everything, but what are some of the examples of where misdiagnosis can happen, or, symptoms of parasite infestation? What are some of the symptoms, for example, of like?
Oh, like a typical one. A typical one is when people are constipated. We have that here all the time. It's often like just ascaris. Tons of ascaris in the gut. Wow. We have people, as you said, H. pylori, typical for stomach issues, Epstein-Barr viral infection, which loves to be in the thyroid or in the central nervous system, who make concentration problems, thyroid disorders, whatever. We have all kind of liver flukes, liver issues, they can't sleep. That's a typical sign. Parasites are active at night.
Yes.
And especially around full moon, they reproduce.
Right. Okay. And so what about treatments? Because I guess it's the trauma of finding out you have parasites, and maybe the relief as well, to know what's been ailing a person for so long. What are some of the treatments that you have for parasite infestation?
Parasite treatment is it's a long treatment, let's say like this, and we have two opportunities or three. You have the opportunity to treat with natural medication, like any kind of herbal things. We have our special mixtures. Then we can treat for sure with standard medical medicine, like the typical anti-parasite medication. And that is the future. We have the opportunity to treat with frequencies. And that is really interesting because you avoid heavy medication. It's much faster. But therefore you need to know which kind of parasite you have, because if you don't have the right frequency, it doesn't work.
Right, exactly. And so how long does the treatment normally last or take?
Our medical protocols, like when I prescribe medication, it's for around about 2 or 3 months. Then we retest, and then maybe it needs another cycle. Sometimes it takes until 2 years until all parasites are gone. And don't forget, in one parasite often live other parasites. So
goodness.
So that's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
And the frequency protocol depends on how much do we have to treat. In general, 5 to 10 days.
Wow.
Sometimes more. It really depends.
Okay, but it does sound like quite a difference. And for people who are nervous about taking medications, this is a great way of treating something naturally, including the natural remedies that you have available as well. And
especially for kids. I treat my own children with the frequencies. So
that's wonderful.
And children are full of parasites. Don't forget it. They play everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Wonderful. So if people want to find out more information about some of your treatments at Swiss Mountain Clinic, then they just go on to swissmountainclinic.com, correct?
Exactly. And they can always contact us. They can always call us. We will be available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And also, is there anything in particular, do some parasites like sugar? And is that another way with cravings? You can tell because you're craving sugars at nighttime. And
that's what I want to say. The typical signs of parasite infections are you cannot sleep, you can't support garlic, you have craving. Craving is a very typical sign for any kind of tapeworm or intestinal parasites. Yes, those are maybe the main sign. Allergies also. Really? Kind of allergy always shows parasites.
Wow. So there's quite a range of parasites that aren't good for us, and definitely can, and imagine the fact that how wonderful it would be for someone who suffers terribly from allergies to be able to experience a spring without as much of a reaction, or a person who's struggling with their weight and their sleeplessness, and just by simply going and trying some treatments out might actually end up far healthier.
So just a patient we had lately. He had all of a sudden a salty taste.
Right.
Salty taste. And I tasted a fish tapeworm, and he had a fish tapeworm in his head and in the area of the mouth. After 5 treatments, the frequency lamp on the head, the salt taste was gone. So it can be, just to say, it can be any kind of symptom you have. You need to know if there is a parasite behind.
Okay, perfect. So if anyone is interested, you can check out LifeHakx Media Facebook page and social media. We will definitely be putting it up there. But also Swiss Mountain Clinic has a social media page, swissmountainclinic.com, as well as their website, and at swissmountainclinic.com to contact them directly by email. Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Are you ready for life-saving and life-changing hacks?
Was ist das?
20 minutes of the best top expert tips and hacks to make your life better. LifeHakx. Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more. LifeHakx.com. That's with a K and an X on Radio X.